I don't think my recovery is going the way it should. That's not fear talking. I'm not in pain exactly. If anything, I feel calmer than I probably should. Comfortable. But there are gaps. Entire stretches of time I can't account for. And when I try to focus on them, my thoughts slide away like the tide of being held. Let me start from the beginning. I was finally back in my apartment. The place stunk of cleaning agents and something faintly like pungent soap, bleach and dish soap, sharp enough to sting the back of your throat, but was thankfully free of pests. My Uber driver was kind enough to help me up the stairs. The bandages on my legs made it hard to walk comfortably. It was kind of weird seeing a few of my neighbours' houses marked with fumigation signs and taped off, but nothing compared to how happy I was to finally be home. My couch was a sight out of a romance movie compared to the stiff hospital cot I'd been sleeping on for the better part of 4 days. I resisted the urge to flop into it, still a bit uneasy about what had led me to need all those bandages in the first place. Nothing under the cushions, thank God. I eased myself down into my usual spot, hissing slightly as one of the wounds on my leg stretched in an uncomfortable way. Still, a massive improvement. The bites were painful, but healing, slowly. They still wouldn't scab properly, but at least they were closing. Remote in hand, Netflix trashy romance blaring in the background, and my favourite soda. Exactly what I needed, at least until the knocking came. Seriously? I know they said my insurance would cover home healthcare, but I'd barely been home 2 hours. My bandages shouldn't need changing for at least a day, right? With a quiet, okay, maybe loud, groan of frustration, I peeled myself off the couch. My back and leg wounds threatened to tear as I eased my way to the door. I wasn't expecting anything in particular. Maybe a guy fresh out of college. Maybe some woman with a slightly chubby build. Anything but the old, cheerful woman who greeted me by pushing her way inside the moment the door opened. My, what a lovely home. Oh, but you could use some cleaning. Must be tough in your state, dear. That sing-song voice grated on my nerves almost as much as her jostling past me did. Can I help you? I asked flatly, half expecting I'd let in a saleswoman, some kind of religious nut. Why, dear, I'm here to help with all of this. She motioned dismissively to my entire being. You're in such a state. So, she was my nurse. All right. Look, not to be rude, but it's been a rough week. Can we just do whatever you need? My mother wouldn't really approve of me being such a poor host, but it's not like she'd ever find out. The woman stood there for a solid beat, simply staring at me with the same cheerful smile you'd see printed on a metal tin of pancake batter. Take a seat, dear. Calm. Still sweet. Now, sitting I could get behind. At least I wouldn't have to worry about stepping wrong and hurting myself. She placed a hand on my back as I leant forward, gently guiding me into position. Somehow, she avoided the wounds, and her hands were surprisingly warm. Now, I'm going to grab a few things from my bag. You have a drink, yes? It's bitter, but it'll do wonders. She chirped as she moved with a slightly alarming amount of energy towards the door, retrieving the bag she'd left behind. It was an old thing, black faux leather, or maybe real, with a gaudy floral strap and way too many pockets. I was expecting something herbal, but instead, she pulled out a standard orange pill bottle and unscrewed the cap and shook a couple of blue-pink capsules into her open palm. Just 2 today, dear. We might up the dose later. I didn't think nurses usually handed out medication, but I reasoned the doctors must have sent her with it. I'd always been too trusting of people I thought were in the medical field. After all, that's what you're raised to do, right? Mum was always the one to comfort us during shots, saying, "The doctor knows best." Whatever was in that medication worked fast. The pain disappeared in moments, replaced by a looseness, a light dizziness. All the while, the nurse rested her hand on my shoulder and gently squeezed. I remember how warm it felt. Things got fuzzy from there. I know she applied some ointment to a few of my nastier wounds. We chit-chatted for a bit, the usual stuff. "Any new pain? You feeling tired? Having trouble staying awake?" she asked gently. I told her I felt drowsy. She just grinned. "That's normal. Means it's working, dear." I slept better than I had in days that night. No waking up to fresh blood where a scab had torn loose. No nightmares about things crawling in my bed. Just black nothing. I woke up to blood on my sheets the next morning. At first, my thoughts turned to the worst, but something dulled the panic before it could really take hold. I've never been good with the sight of my own blood. That calm didn't sit right with me. Still, it helped me focus. The bandages she'd applied yesterday, soaked with whatever ointment she'd used, had come undone. My left arm was bare, wounds leaking blood through half-formed scabs. I couldn't help but notice though, the scabs were there, not crumbling away, not falling apart, staying. Maybe the cream was working. I eased myself out of bed, carefully balled up the sheets and tossed them on the floor. I'd deal with them later. I just limped into the kitchen when the knocking came again. I took a deep breath and steadied myself against the counter. The medicine had clearly worn off. Every step tore. Every bandage rubbed grit against the open wounds that felt newly exposed. "I'll be there in a..." The click of the doorknob cut me off. And there she was again. Same cheery smile, same beige cardigan, same black bag with the tacky floral strap. "Oh, hey, thanks for coming back," I said awkwardly, wondering how she'd gotten in. Had I left the door unlocked yesterday? "Hello again, dear. Ready for your medicine?" Same tone, same energy. It was easy to let her take over. I was tired. I was sore. I just wanted it done. "Sure," I said. "Just let me grab a sandwich or something." She gasped, a hand flying to her mouth. Shock, or maybe hurt, replacing her usual chipper demeanour. "Oh, no. You need to rest, dear. Let me handle that for you." I tried to protest, but she took my arm and pulled me toward the couch. Pain flared as the movement reminded me of just how much the medicine had hidden it the day before. I felt a pang of annoyance as she helped herself to my fridge, pulling out a cold bottle of water and handing it to me, along with another round of those blue-pink pills. Still, I couldn't complain. They worked. Within minutes, my aches eased, and the world began to blur around the edges. I must have almost dozed off when the smell hit me. Bacon. I turned my gaze from the TV, which at some point I'd apparently managed to turn back on, now playing a nature documentary, and towards the kitchen. She'd put on an apron and was busy cutting lettuce. The thought of saying something, anything, about her helping herself to my groceries was pushed aside by the idea of a warm meal, not from a hospital, and I'm glad I didn't. She made a classic breakfast spread, perfectly cooked scrambled eggs, fluffy and soft, bacon just how I like it, a little chewy with some crunch. She even turned it into a couple of BLTs, all arranged neatly on a platter I didn't remember her bringing, alongside a tall glass of some kind of juice. "Now dear, it's a little bitter at first, but trust me, it'll help." She wasn't lying. It tasted like orange juice mixed with lemon, sugar, and something distinctly medicinal. Whatever it was, warmth spread from my gut outward, turning what had been a dull, painless throb into a light, almost drunken floatiness. She spent the next hour going over my wounds, talking about her garden and how Reginald had been acting up again. Apparently, she named her plants, which I found kind of adorable. She spoke about their care the same way she spoke about me, as if they were her patients too. Those pills really did wonders. I didn't feel a thing, not as she peeled away red rust-crusted bandages and replaced them with clean ones. Not as she pressed ointment-slick fingers into open wounds. The scabs from the previous session were holding, but the skin around them had taken on a strange discoloration. I looked at her, vision blurred, the world soft. "Hey, is it supposed to be yellow?" She watched me for a moment, one eyebrow quirking up as she processed the question. Then, that same reassuring smile spread across her face. "Why, of course, dearie. That just means that medicine is getting rid of all those nasty little toxins in your, well, not really bites so much as openings." She paused, stroking one of my wounds perhaps a bit too long. It was odd. She looked almost loving as she applied the ointment, but not to me, to the wound. Then again, I wasn't exactly in the best state of mind. The pain might have been gone, but I was bone tired, drifting in and out of sleep as she tended to me. When I turned to look at her, she lifted her head to meet my gaze, still smiling. I woke up in my bed, new bandages, clean sheets. It was dark out. I must have slept all day. The thought of getting up felt pointless, but I tried anyway. No dice. My body felt unbearably heavy, and I let sleep take me again. I blinked, and the scene shifted. Daylight. The weakness was fading, my mind still foggy but slowly clearing. What was happening again? I still couldn't get up. My head tilted down to look at my body, wrapped in bandages, but something felt off, or rather, smelled off. Urine. And something else. Sour. Stale. I'd missed the bed. I couldn't feel it. I was vaguely aware of the dampness, but my sense of touch felt distant, like my body belonged to someone else. The door creaked. I would say I tensed, got tight. The fear was there, but it just wasn't latching. It was like something wasn't firing in my brain, not letting the fear fully kick in. Fingers. Fingers I recognised. Old, wrinkled, gripped the door and slowly pushed it open, allowing my nurse to poke her head into my room. "Oh dear, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left you for so long. I had other patients, you see. Reginald really was acting up today. Didn't want to take his medicine, you see." She began to ramble, walking up to me and flipping me over as if she'd already done this a dozen times. She cleaned me, changed my sheets, gave me some kind of injection I barely felt. "Sadly, you can't really drink like this." She paused, looking almost regretful, or maybe just concerned. She took my limp hand in hers. It made me realise how cold I felt. She turned to look at me dead in the eye, cheer returning to her demeanour. "But don't worry, dear, I've got you." It's been like this for days. I get my sense of touch back from time to time. I've written this in pieces. She says I'm straining myself too much, but she's just being nice. I really don't want her to leave. She's so nice, but Something's wrong. I don't know what, but this isn't right. I got a text saying my insurance wouldn't cover the home health care. How nice of her to do this in her free time. She has to be a volunteer. How else would she know to come? She mentioned that Reginald had been doing better in the last couple of days. Something about me helping him along. She says this is all part of the process. All part of how she helps us get better.